What is the worst secret your significant other is keeping from you, but that you actually know? Story 1. My SO is a veteran and very stereotypically manly. He doesn't talk about his personal life with friends, and he's pretty quiet in general. This is a southern traditional dude who opens every door for every person. He calls every person older than him ma'am or sir. Anyway, he has a lot of friends who are also this way, and they often tease my man, who says nice things about their woman. His friends spilled the beans, though, that one night, right after I met him, they all got crazy drunk, and he told all of them I was the love of his life, and we were going to get married one day. They all teased him and were playing around, when this one dude he doesn't know very well told him I had nice boobies. He clocked him. He made such a commotion, he's not allowed back in the bar. After his friend told me this story, I realized I had asked to go to that bar a couple of weeks ago, and he had made some excuse about the drinks being overpriced. I will never tell him I know, but if he asks me, I'll marry him. Edit, for all of you saying he's going to abuse me, I'm sorry, but that's just hilarious. You know, one story about him, one of which he is very ashamed of. We're both highly educated, socially progressive, empathetic, and loving people. I guess I'm just asking for everyone to troll me with abuse stories now. I swear that this isn't even an option. I would never stay with someone that I had the slightest inkling they were going to hit me. Also, the guy he hit had a history of saying dirty stuff about women and highly disrespecting them. He's had a couple of assault allegations conveniently disappear. He's not a good dude. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, screw him. Edit 2. Marriage has never been on my radar until I met this guy. I love him more than I've ever loved another person, but the actual act of marrying him isn't very important to me. However, as I mentioned, he is more traditional, and so marriage means something to him that it doesn't to me. When we first started having serious conversations about 5 years ago, this was also when I told him I was bisexual, about past relationships, etc., I jokingly promised him that if we ever decided to get married, I would let him plan the whole wedding. Fast forward, and he and my mom talk about the wedding we're going to have. I think it's adorable, and I love that it means something to him. We're both anthropologists, so I know he just likes rituals more than I do, and I would never take that away from him. If I proposed, he would be happy and accept, but it means so much to him to do it. I will just let him. My brother is getting married this year, and I know my significant other was going to propose, but stopped because he wanted us to have our own anniversary year. He tells my mom everything, and she lets it slip because she's old. Story 2. When I was in Afghanistan, I wanted to use the money I made to buy a motorcycle. Combat pay is better than regular pay. I didn't have a car, though, and I was getting out of the Marines in 8 months and moving back to the Midwest, where it is not at all practical to only have a motorcycle. I bought a car instead. Flash forward 2 years later, I meet my girlfriend and her 1-year-old son at the end of an ugly marriage, and we begin a relationship. 2 years from that point, we begin living together. Throughout all this time, I've still been wanting to save for a motorcycle, but we needed to focus our money on more practical things. She needed a new car, we needed to pay for childcare, etc. I put my wants on hold to address our needs. She's known about my wanting a motorcycle for as long as she's known me, and finally she approved me to spend up to $1,500 on a bike if I could find one. Well, I found one for $2,000 on Craigslist, and it turned out the guy selling it was a friend from an old job I had as a security guard. He was a good friend, and agreed to give me a friend price of $1,500. I went home and told my girlfriend, and she said, "Oh, that's great. We'll get it if it's the one you want." She then found the Craigslist ad, I showed her pictures, contacted my friend, and schemed to buy it out from under me for the full asking price of $2,000. For a while, I was bummed because I didn't know anything other than that my friend had another buyer willing to pay the full asking price. I told him I was just glad that my girlfriend was going to let me buy one, and he responded with, "Yeah, you're lucky. Girlfriend's name here sounds like a real keeper." The thing is, he had never met her, and I had never mentioned her name to him. So I had my suspicions. I played along and continued searching for bikes, but never being satisfied with them, always saying my friend's bike was a way better deal, and that I thought I could do better. My birthday came around, she blindfolded me and drove me over to his house. She even went out and bought a bow to place on it so there wouldn't have been any confusion. It was a present for me. I let on that I had a few suspicions because he immediately found another buyer after I told her about it a little later on, but maintained that I was blown away by the surprise. She is definitely a keeper. Story 3. This was from my ex, but he always hid that he jerked off and watched porn, even though I knew he did. I'd feel him moving in the middle of the night, and it was the unmistakable rhythm of him beating his Vienna sausage. The corn thing was even better. He'd turn down the volume on his phone, but the light would shine in my face as I was sleeping facing him. I'd invariably wake up and watch him looking at corn and getting off. The last time I caught him, I had gotten into my car to run errands, and he had his phone synced to my car. I turned it on, and after a few seconds, I heard the unmistakable moaning and slapping of a relatively decent corno. His mother was in the car with me, and we both laughed like idiots. I sent him a text after about 5 solid minutes of listening, and it said, "Save that video, it sounds really hot, and I want to watch it with you." Cue the sounds turning off and a frantic text saying he was asleep and he had a virus on his phone, so he had no idea where it came from. I don't know why he hid it from me. I encouraged touching himself and watching corn, and I never hid it when I did it. His fear of me knowing he did, that culminated in a hilarious exchange one night in bed. After we slept together one night, I asked why he refused to touch himself in front of me. This was his exact response. "I'm Catholic. It's better to spill my seed in the belly of a horse than to spill it on the ground." This was maybe 10 minutes after we had done it. Story 4. Before my ex-wife and I had first split up, I had found out she was hiding a storage unit with an entire apartment set aside in it, just in case the breakup went bad. She worked graveyard, and I was using her laptop while watching The Walking Dead to use the story sync. And because she uses all Apple products, her iMessage was tied to her MacBook. I don't normally read her messages, but considering the amount of notifications that were chiming in, I could tell she was having a rather lengthy conversation. I opened it and started reading, and it turns out she had sent a picture message of a fully packed storage unit to her best friend out in South Carolina. It had furniture, appliances, essentially everything she needed to start out with an apartment on her own. I sat on that for several months, before finally bringing it up out of nowhere. We were literally sitting on the couch one night, and I just turned to her and said, "So, I know about your storage unit." She about pooped a brick. It was the last thing she ever expected to hear because she thought she was being sneaky. Conversation actually went quite well, though, and we ended up deciding that we were going to file for divorce. That divorce was finalized on March 3rd of this year. Story 5. A girl I dated a few years back had just graduated with her bachelor's, so I took her out for a night on the town. Her and our friends got absolutely demolished, and since this was before Uber, I volunteered to be the DD. So around 2 a.m., she's tanked, we head out, and she wants Crystal Burgers. Very adamant about that. So I stop by Crystal's and order a steamer pack so I can have some too, and then have leftovers. She eats somewhere around 8. I get her home, get her into her bed, and she immediately passes out. I'm sitting next to her watching some TV when I smell something. I notice that she has just pooed herself. She is one of those people who would be so ashamed of herself if anyone found out, so I just left. I called her the next day and told her I dropped her off, got her some water, and headed home. Never mentioned her pooping herself or anything, so to this day she thinks she did it in her sleep after I left. I could have stayed and helped her clean it up, and I probably should have, but she would have cried over that and avoided me sporadically for weeks. Story 6. Okay, so I found out my fiancé was wanting to ask me to marry him, but wanted to get a super expensive ring for me, so it was taking time to save up. I don't give a crap about that type of thing. I'd marry him without a ring. That's not what's important to me. So I went to his mom and told her what I knew, and she told me we should go look at rings together, so maybe I could pick something less expensive so she could tell him we had been shopping and I had fallen in love with a ring that he could afford. I know, I'm sneaky. Anyway, I found an incredible ring that was normally $500, but on sale for $100. I bought the ring and she called him and told him what she did. He was so happy. He asked me to marry him on Christmas Eve, and it was by far one of the best days of my life. He has no clue that I was involved in the purchase, so he's keeping the secret that he doesn't know that I know. Story 7. He has been hiding his autism from me for 10 years. I should clarify it's a long-running, on-again, off-again thing between us, but even when it's off, we were still good friends. He suffered abusive therapy and, because of it, thinks hiding his autism is the most important thing. Except that's like trying to hide an elephant in a bathroom, and he's not always super high-functioning. So it's always a weird charade of me pretending he's not autistic while busting my butt to gently handle that. I have no idea how to talk to him about it. I know he has a formal diagnosis. He was so traumatized from institutional medical abuse in the name of therapy that even mentioning it or acknowledging it can cause him to have a meltdown. He thinks if I knew, I wouldn't love him anymore. But I've known for years, and I still love him. I like him just how he is. I just want things to be easier and less scary for him, and I don't know how to help most of the time because he won't admit the problem. Story 8. My wife wouldn't let me touch her head. Well, while we were dating, she wouldn't let me touch her head or play with her hair. For the longest time, she avoided it. Her mom asked, "Didn't I know about her condition?" I said, "No," and she told me I may find out one day. Anyway, she, my girlfriend, wife, invited me to stay the night one night, and of course, I was all about it. As we laid there, I pulled her to me and ran my fingers through her hair. She didn't fight and didn't say anything, but I could feel her scars and how her skull had healed. I felt her tears rolling down my forearm. I told her no matter any scar or anything else, I was never going to let her go, because I swore at that moment I would take care of her for the rest of my life. We dated about 6 months and have been married for 10 years. Brain surgery and seizures never stopped me from being the best man and best friend I can be for her. Story 9. My soon-to-be ex-wife met another guy about a year and a half ago. She was so bad at hiding it that I thought she wanted to get caught. Posting romantic stuff on her Instagram when we hadn't been romantic in a long time. Confronted her, lied even with solid evidence. A few months later, stuff starts disappearing from the house. Pretty obvious that she's moving out. Then we started to have no money every month, and I have a pretty okay job, and realized she was stealing money basically by paying her bills twice a month with 3 to 4 times the minimum payment and not paying mine. Let it go on for a bit and finally confronted her. She doesn't admit to it. I finally just pull my check from our joint account and she says she's leaving, but is going to be homeless. The next day, she had changed her Facebook back to her maiden name and had a picture of her and the other guy at their new place. I don't know if this counts. Story 10. His affair. I knew for 3 weeks before he left, to look after his allegedly sick dad, and for 2 weeks after I told him I knew. He said last week he's done it and sees what he has missed, but I know he's still sleeping and living with her whilst messaging me. Basically, what he just did to me. I'm his wife, we were together 12 years. He just can't stop lying. He may be genuinely remorseful right now, but I can't get past his deceit. Update. Sorry if my comment was confusing, and thank you for all the replies. I found out in December he was cruel and miserable throughout and nearly ruined Xmas for the kids. I suggested he go visit his sick dad in New York and slam that door right behind him. Took time off work, I was the main earner then, and rearranged my life to take care of the kids and get a job with flexible hours. I'm happier. Kids are doing well. He's the one struggling now. Story 11. Everybody likes snacks, right? Some of us like chips, others like fruit or yogurt. Well, my wife likes croutons. Frozen croutons, to be exact, and she tries to hide it like an alcoholic hides bottles of vodka. Where does she hide the croutons? In the freezer. At first, I'd put them in the pantry when we got home from the grocery store, but they'd always end up in the freezer. I'd be like, hun, what's up with the croutons in the freezer? And she'd act like she had no idea what I was talking about. Now, here's the thing. I've tried them, and now I'm addicted to them too. So now I openly eat cold croutons out of the freezer as a snack. And she tells me what a weirdo I am while she eats half the bag with me. No idea why she's embarrassed to admit what a genius she is for discovering such an awesome snack. By the way, the best kind is Chatham Village garlic and cheese flavor. Story 12. I know he already bought an engagement ring, and that it's a pearl, not a diamond. But he's just awful at hiding gifts from me. Not physically, but he just asks me a ton of questions about what I want, and then plays it off like I could never figure out why. And I already knew he had gotten a ring because he left mail out from Zales and suddenly had a Zales rewards card in his wallet. And I figured out it was a pearl because a few weeks ago he went out to dinner with me and one of my girlfriends, and she was talking about what engagement ring she wants, and we went on about how neither of us wants a diamond. He got very serious and asked me if I liked pearls and acted relieved when I said yes. Story 13. Ex-girl. She had a fairly large scar on her back and was incredibly self-conscious about it. She wouldn't even take her shirt off for the first time when we slept together. When I asked her about it, she said she had fallen from her horse when she was young. Fast forward a little, and I'm out finding her a birthday present and have enlisted the help of her friend. I pick out an attractive singlet, and her friend just looked at me like I'm stupid. Apparently the scar on her back, which the singlet clearly revealed, wasn't from a fall, but an abusive ex-boyfriend who had pushed her onto his motorbike's exhaust pipe and burnt her. We ended on good terms, and I never told her I knew. I hope she's doing well, though. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of this video and have a wonderful day. Story 14. He settled for me pretty hard. I'm the less petite, objectively less pretty friend, and he crushed on her first. He denied it to the moon and back, but a little while ago I accidentally found some messages between him and his friend about how I was catching on and pretty insecure about the fact that he liked my friend first, which isn't true. People like a lot of people, but he would never let me feel like a second choice. And even if I was, the joke's on him because I'm a freaking treasure. We're happy, and I don't doubt that he loves me now. I've had really ugly ducklings in the past couple of years, and I make him happy, so who's the real winner, eh? Story 15. We were long distance when we first started dating. The one time she came up to where I lived for 4 days, but I had to work during one of the days. When I was gone, she had to take a dump and clog the toilet. She couldn't get it to plunge and was freaking out, so she went to the kitchen and got a fork in a plastic bag and dug the turds out of the bowl and threw everything in the dumpster out back. She called her friend panicking, and the friend thought it was hilarious. Friend told me about it one night when the girl had left the room after we moved in together. I find it funny, but don't want to embarrass her. Story 16. Was a prostitute and was in some adult films and worked as an exotic dancer when young and hungry. Retired, bought a food truck. I loved the coffee and grilled cheese sandwiches. Fell in love. I don't think they know. I don't know. I don't care. I'll never tell. Update, P.S. How did I find out? Years ago, a now deceased friend of my significant other, someone who'd been in the life too, told me, showed me proof, the person I fell in love with was and is the sum total of their life preceding. Middle-class morality is not a luxury everyone can afford. It's not a value system everyone embraces regardless. It's okay by me if people, in part or entirely, choose to reinvent themselves as they see fit. Story 17. I'm actually the secret keeper. I got cancer a few years back. It was not great, but not stage 4. I couldn't really deal with it, and my significant other's father was passing away of cancer and alcoholism. I just didn't want to see him anymore. He needed me to help him out during his hard time, and I didn't want to make it about me. I didn't tell him for 2.5 months. He had found out at the 1-month mark, but was waiting for me to say something. I didn't. He showed up to my chemotherapy treatment one day like it was nothing and held my hand. We cried a bit, and he was pretty angry at me. Story 18. She deliberately told me she had never slept with a mutual friend of mine. The fact that she deliberately brought this up at literally a complete random time was suspicious enough, and I then saw a Facebook message from him one day because she was logged in on my phone. It said, "Remember when we did things more than just things friends do? Was I good?" She has no idea. I wouldn't care except for the fact that she out of nowhere told me she had never done anything intimate with him. Why lie when, 1, I wouldn't even be upset, 2, I never even freaking asked or brought it up? Update, she broke up with me too. Figures. Story 19. My ex made up a person and spoke to me as them. We met when we were quite young and were both pretty weird. I put it down to insecurity and wanting to look like she had cool friends. I was a little older. I never let on that I knew because it would have been super embarrassing for her, and this was literally the start of the relationship. She made up quite a few stories about this guy, and I got a few emails from him. She didn't realize that changing the name of the account didn't actually change the address, which was fully visible. Story 20. I'm not sure what events led up to it, but he pooped the bed. I'm guessing he trusted a fart he shouldn't have, but it happened. He didn't hide it very well. He just put the sheets in the washing machine, but didn't start it, so I smelled it. He claims the dog sharted, but the boxers he attempted to hide, pretty haphazardly I might add, in the trash, tell a different story. I have attempted to bring it up, but I don't want to break the illusion he has of himself being the James Bond of bed pooping. Story 21. When he's about to fall asleep, he's completely honest. It was about 7 months in when he grabbed me and whispered into my ear, "You're going to be the mother of my children." I told him, and he was thoroughly embarrassed, and he apologized. However, I neglected to tell him that pretty much every night he would tell me that he loved me, starting a month in. I don't mind, and I'm not trying to rush things, and neither of us have any plans to jump into that sort of stuff right away, but it's nice to know. Story 22. This is a past tense secret, but my girlfriend at the time decided to surprise me by buying a holiday to Brussels for us over my 30th birthday. I accidentally intercepted the hotel confirmation email, so decided it was a good time to propose. As I'd been considering it for about 6 months, I was all surprised when she told me. Then, when we were having dinner in the restaurant on the first night, I got down on one knee and proposed, celebrating our 3-year wedding anniversary at the end of next month. Story 23. Once on a date with my ex, I complimented her necklace, which was a doll's eye on a chain. Doll's eyes blink when tilted, which was cool. She immediately said, "Oh, thanks, I made it myself," and talked about how she did it, but I'd already seen that same necklace at a store she shops at. Also, she would sometimes say really beautiful things that were actually quotes from books. On one instance, I was reading a book about a year after we broke up and went, I've heard this before. Story 24. He lied about his last name, age, degree, being in the military, and being a registered offender. I only figured out the lie about the degree and broke it off. Then started stalking me, and I figured out everything else. I don't know if he figured out that I know everything else. We live in a relatively small town, and a girl was about to meet up with him. I warned her. He is still lying about his age. You're not 29, Charlie. You're 42, and screw you. Story 25. My wife dropped my iPhone in a porta-potty toilet. Luckily, it has been so used there was a large pile of poop, which gently held the phone above the liquid. She cleaned it off and gave it back to me. A year later, I upgraded and gave her my old phone. She insisted on purchasing a new cover, even though I had a high-end OtterBox. I never understood why until one of the kids told on her. Story 26. He spent a ton of money on Bruins tickets this year. Whenever he got tickets to a match, he claimed he got them for free through work or downplays the cost, but I know he paid for them. I don't really mind since he can spend his money how he wants, but it's funny to me that he thinks I wouldn't realize he's spending a few $100 every time he goes to a game. Story 27. This is in the past, but still a good one. Ended up finding out that my now ex-girlfriend was cheating on me after hearing one of my parrots pick up, "Oh God, yes, Jim," in a rather scratchy, sensual voice. "Oh God, yes, Jim." Turns out they've been sleeping together where I kept him while I went to work. Dumped her butt the next time I saw her and told her. Story 28. She doesn't know I like watching her sleep. She's beautiful and looks so relaxed while sleeping, but she's also shy and would probably feel self-conscious if she knew. Her job is very stressful, so she suffers from resting witch face, but if you get past that, you realize she's a very sweet girl. I'm gathering courage to introduce myself to her later this month. Story 29. Her Caesar salad dressing. It's actually the best thing ever, but even after 2 years, she refuses to tell me what's in it. What she doesn't know is that I have secretly been watching her make it over the past few months. I finally pieced it together, and now I have the power. Edit. Everyone wants the secret recipe, but she has the internet, and I prefer life. Story 30. She smokes when I'm not home. I know this because I always move the router to the window where the signal's best. When I come home, the router's in a different position away from the window. I put it back without her knowing and call her out for smoking. She has no idea how I keep finding out. Story 31. He had always said he hates to cuddle at night because it gets hot, or it's uncomfortable, or I hog the blankets. However, when he thinks I'm asleep, he'll scoot over and wrap his body around me. If I even make a move like I'm awake, he'll run back to his side and pretend it never happened. Story 32. That my husband has been talking to different divorce lawyers. I think he's lawyer shopping to get out as smoothly as possible. Guess he's had enough of my crazy bipolar shenanigans. 9-inch Nails said it best. Everyone I know goes away in the end. Even a 10-year marriage can't withstand mental illness. Story 33. I woke up in the middle of the night to my girlfriend giving me a hand while I was asleep. I pretended to stay asleep through it, and she never said anything to me about it since. Was that some crazy Cosmo test to see if I'd say someone's name in my sleep or something? Story 34. The first time my significant other and I slept together, I woke up during the night to use the bathroom. I came back into the room and she farted, one of the loudest farts I've ever heard. I started laughing like crazy, and she almost woke up. Almost. We've been together for 7 years. Story 35. She had slept with my boss before we knew each other, before I had been hired into the company. I'm not mad about it or anything, everyone has a past, but she carefully dances around ever coming into my work now, and I'm careful not to bring him up. Story 36. She really disliked my friends, or maybe thought they disliked her, which led to awkward hangouts with groups and eventually led me to uncontrollable anxiety when they were in the same room. Yeah, it was a bad feeling that was never addressed. Story 37. She's breaking up with me tomorrow and said she wants to talk, and it's not something we can talk about in texts. We've been on the verge of a breakup for like 2 months now. It feels bad. Story 38. Combination of her drinking and her cheating. I can tell by her behavior and the look in her eyes the second she drinks. Saw texts from another guy while she was passed out. Not really sure what to do. Story 39. She has no idea that I know about her multiple imaginary friends. Also, she has this crazy notion that the computer programs she writes have become sentient. I'm considering contacting a therapist. Story 40. She says she doesn't want children. I know that she actually does want children, and that she's not capable of having them due to stumbling upon some medical records. Story 41. I knew for 1.5 years about my engagement ring and never told him until after he proposed. He was not so good at hiding. Story 42. Can't we just have an anonymous mode so I can stop making throwaways? Yeah, I know you look at my internet stuff. Fight me when you come home. Story 43. She is hiding baseball tickets for when my favorite team comes into town. She's waiting to give them to me on my birthday. Story 44. Well, my significant other is a girl, and, well, she poops. She thinks I don't know, but I know. Apparently all women do. Story 45. He claims he doesn't love the new cat his parents adopted. Claims she always just sleeps in his room for some reason. Story 46. I had a girlfriend who purposefully gave me bad notes for class so her average would be higher than mine. Story 47. Internet, what is the worst secret your significant other is hiding from you? She has sports tickets for my birthday. What? Story 48. She flushes her tampons down the toilet, which clogs it every so often. Blames it on big turds. Story 49. She says she loves me, but really, she's just using me to not feel lonely. Story 50. At night, once I go to bed, he binge watches Gossip Girl. Story 51. He pleasures himself to pictures on Facebook of girls we know. Story 52. She waits until I sleep to steal my pillows. Story 53. He hides chocolate bars in his work bag. Mustard. Story 54. They're bi. Little do they know that so am I. Story 55. I know she looks at my internet records. Story 56. I know she ate those cookies. Story 57. I've always been her second option. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.